So this is the follow-up to my previous video showing that this card is fake using different evidence, and I forgot a few things that some people mentioned, which is comparing it to a Modern Horizon 1 card, so it's comparing same set to same set, same printed year, as well as comparing the green dot on the back of the card, the green dot to tell if it's fake. So I'm going to do that in this video to show more evidence that this one is fake. But first I want to compare the Modern Horizon symbol and show you that there is some differences between the fake card and the real card. Even though it's not proof, it does show there's definitely a difference. So if I line all these up and then show a zoomed in, I hope you can tell that that blue card there looks a bit darker than the rest. Let's see if I can... Yeah, that's pretty good. So if you compare all these set symbols, the one in the middle, that one looks a little bit darker, a little bit different color than the rest. And that's not proof that it's fake or anything. There's a little bit of variation, but that's just another data point showing that this one's a bit different from the real card. So now I'm going to compare the green dot on the back. I'm going to zoom in with a digital microscope and show that the print dots are quite different than a real card, and there's no way that this one is actually real, even though it's a really high quality fake. So, all right, I'm going to show the digital microscope.
So I'm comparing the green dots here, and the real one is on the left and the fake one is on the right. The one on the left, this is also from Modern Horizon 1, just like the Force of Negation, so I'm not comparing different sets, I'm comparing cards from the same set, same year printed, and at first look they look pretty similar, but if you look closely they have these 4 distinct red dots, which is a really good way of knowing whether it's fake or not. But on top of that, let's say maybe these got missed or something, you can tell that the printing plates are completely different, because if you look at the number of these light green or yellowish dots, if you compare the one on the left, you can see they're sort of in a diagonal pattern. So if you look at any individual dot like this one, the closest ones are diagonal to it. So these are in a diagonal path, and if you compare the fake one, these are in a horizontal, vertical orientation, kind of like a chessboard. So it's very these are lined up vertically and horizontally, where on the real cards they're lined up diagonally. And this is not just on certain sets. Every printing it's like this, because they're using the same printing files, the same printing plates, and it has to be printed this way if it's a real card. There's no way that this is being printed on a different printer or something and it's still real. No, these are completely different print files because the dots are completely different. So I took a lot of pictures of the green dot from different sets, and I can scroll through them, but you can notice if you're looking at the green dots, they're always in the same orientation. They may be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, shifted slightly left or right, but they're always in a diagonal pattern, and they're always in the same position. So if I go all the way to the end, this is a vintage card. I think it's revised, where you can see these dots are even more distinct. But the overall pattern is the same, even though these are bigger. So if you look at the green circles and the black circles, they're bigger than, let's say, Modern Horizon 1, which is this one. Even though if I keep going back and forth, you can see they're basically all in the same place on the card, but the revised card is just bigger. The print dots are a little bit bigger, and that can depend on which printer, which printing press is printing the card. That can vary, but the actual position of where these dots are on the card cannot change. So it's easy to tell from fakes and real cards just by looking at this green dot, looking at the green circles, and seeing the orientation and seeing what position they are in the green dot compared from a real card. And you can see that this one on the right here is completely different. It's horizontal, vertical, There's way more dots on this one than on the real one. This is probably a higher resolution printing press. So this was printed on a printing press, but it's different. It's kind of like a copy of a copy. They don't have the original printing files, and so that's why it looks different on close-up. So I didn't notice this before, but when you zoom into a hollow foil stamp on a real card, there's this security measures that has the word wizards across this certain symbol. So this is visible on every foil stamp that I looked at. I looked at over 100 cards, and each one you can tell it has this wizards security symbol, and I did not see that on the fake card. But let me just give you an example of lots of different cards that have this security measure. So some have a lot, like this one. This one has a lot of wizards. But depending on where the foil stamp went, like for example, this card only had a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom because this part of the foil stamp was cut off. And then you have other cards where it may be off to one side or the other, and the wording may be clearer or not clearer. So I noticed there's a lot of variations, but every foil stamp that I checked has this signature wizards on this particular symbol here, somewhere on the foil stamp. So lots of different pictures, different foil stamps, and lots of different directions. So this one, for example, it's very hard to see wizards, but it's actually there. It's just very, very faded. This example shows it's just on the bottom left part of the foil stamp. This one is also pretty faded, but you can see the wizards is there. This one is more clear. You can see wizards, and so I have lots of examples of showing this security measure from lots of different sets. And so like this one, for example, it only showed on a very small part of the foil stamp, but it's still there. And yeah, here's all these examples. And then if I compare that to the actual fake card, okay, now the fake one's on the right and the real one's on the left. So if I look at every spot on this foil stamp very closely, there is no wizards anywhere on the foil stamp. So I would guess it should have been on this one because that's kind of a copy. This symbol here is a copy of this one, and so it should be here. The other thing I noticed with the fake card is if you zoom way in, you can see that it's sort of made of little squares. So if you can, let me zoom way in. So you notice that there's squares of light. I think this foil stamp is made of tiny little squares, and that's not the case on the real cards. So if the real cards, if I look around, I don't see any squares. It's kind of like a sticker that doesn't have parts to it, where on the fake one, I noticed that there's little squares throughout, and so that's something that you can tell a fake card from the foil stamp is both the missing words and the if you zoom way in, you can see the squares that make up the foil stamp on the fake one. All right, I hope that was enough evidence to show that this really is a fake card when compared to real cards. Let me know if there's some other tests that I missed and I need to run just to see if this one's really fake or not. Any test I'll run except for the rip-up test because I don't want to rip it up and show the core or anything. I don't think that's going to prove that it's real anyway, even if it is a black core underneath. So yeah, let me know if there's any other tests I can run. Otherwise, if somebody is not convinced, let me know why you're not convinced, and maybe I'll have to run some more tests. Thanks.